Hey, what's up? My name's Faaris, and I am making this video just to, surround the work that I did for Cheriton Light Festival. It's the first sort of architectural projection mapping that I've ever done, and I come from a background of visuals and animation. I love architecture, and combining the two was something that I just couldn't wait to get my hands on. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And from the get-go, I wanted to make like a really kind of crazy audio-visual experience, kind of swaying from the side of having a story to kind of tell. I wanted to just make a super intense, crazy set, basically. That's what I've done in the past with visual sets that I've done by the name of AJ Tracy at Alexandra Palace and Stormzy at Glastonbury Festival. Those are mad projects to be a part of, and I was so privileged to be a part of them, and I wanted to kind of bring the same energy as I did with those projects to this one. As far as my inspiration artistically, I'm heavily inspired by a musician named Paul Robinson. His art style really inspired me from the get-go to, kind of create this vaporwave sort of world, glitchy sort of vibe as well, especially with the music, like just keeping it in sync with the music. But yeah, this video is basically to talk about some of the software I used and how I made some of the visuals, how I mixed them together as well, and mapped them to the architecture. But before that, enjoy the video.
Is my true reason. I will find my own purpose and purge this planet of all who oppose me. The world will heed my warning. The reign of Mewtwo will soon begin.
Okay, so I basically wanted to take you through how I made these visuals. So I used Cinema 4D mainly for this project and Octane. But yeah, so we got given a large scale model of the site, which obviously was located in Cheriton. It was 3D scanned, so it was perfectly proportioned, and yeah, the model was perfect, which is obviously a necessity with a project like this. And we actually had the camera set up in a way that was from the projector's perspective, so everything that would be projected onto the model would appear from that perspective. So for example, going into my first scene, you can see I kind of done this effect here which manipulated the model. I intensified the density to create these sort of rippling effects, and use various plugins to create a like water effect. And yeah, and then, you know, secondly, after that, I wanted the whole thing to kind of ripple as well. This is again using the plugins that I have with Cinema 4D. So following that was the asteroid scene here. I just modeled various amounts of asteroids. I think I actually modeled just one and then just reshaped it a lot of times. With the backplate of the stars, it would look kind of natural, but obviously I wanted to keep that perspective from the camera just here. So they did look like they were kind of coming at you from the perspective that you would be looking at the architecture from. And so yeah, this one in the back here has a different animation track of just kind of hitting the screen and then floating off. Obviously it does go deeper than that, to where I added the smash, so I'll show you how I did that. So here it happens so fast that it's kind of it is, you know, you can get away with just a sort of subtle shake. So I had like a really intense glow as soon as the asteroid hit, and used displacement in After Effects to move the texture to allow this texture. So I just set it to lighter color, which added like a bit more texture to like the sides, where you can see here, which was kind of needed, and as well as the displacement. So the displacement takes place here. So for this next animation, I took a lot of inspiration from 2001: A Space Odyssey with the Stargate scene. I wanted to kind of recreate that as well, with just kind of a super intense space travel sequence, to where you eventually land with this big spaceship. And what's interesting about the spaceship is actually it is the building effectively made into the form of a spaceship, sort of satellite pillars. But yeah, it's the piece of architecture from here, this just duplicated across, and just some modeling done around the outsides and the back as well, to give it like more depth. I essentially wanted to make it look like a big sort of Star Wars cockpit, and make that epic sort of transition here. And then ultimately the main thing I wanted to do was zoom in and then have the camera lay exactly where the camera was before. And yeah, so this last initial keyframe is essentially where the camera was set at, and this is kind of the border of the project as well. So it does perfectly line up with the project in the initial architecture. So after that, there comes a point where they all glow up. That was just simply using masking as well. I didn't really do much here, it was just masking and glows. Here as well, it's just a lot of masking work, and again with this section it was a lot of masking work as well. So this scene was probably the most immersive and grabbing in terms of perspective, I believe. Essentially putting the camera exactly again in the same spot, doing some nice rendering on it. I got some really nice kind of effects here of like metal scratches as well around the borders of it. I used the Octane denoiser in this, so it kind of looks a bit smudgy, but it was on such a big scale that it didn't really matter, and it looked quite cool as well, like that brushed sort of metal look. And yeah, the camera track was just on a simple just one axis just going down. And so following that was the final shot, which I had a character called Mewtwo. I animated it all myself, and essentially what I wanted to do is have Mewtwo placed on a background that was also 3D, which would make him appear less flat. So here you can see his arms coming over these sort of 3D rectangles here, and with given the perspective, you can see that they're 3D. And so when Mewtwo emerges out of here, it gives you that sort of enhanced element of 3D. And that enhanced element of 3D really connected with people in the audience, I feel. There were numerous times where I had kids screaming out the name of the character coming on screen, which is exactly what I wanted, because I know it's something that I really would have loved to see as a kid. And I know the character's really popular. It generated a really good atmosphere to end on, and a really cool kind of epic note. A lot of the kids were just super excited that they just saw this character on the screen. A lot of families were really excited to see their kids excited as well. It was just a really good atmosphere. And continuing on the feedback from the festival, I spoke to a photographer there who was taking pictures of my display. He particularly pointed out that he really enjoyed the gear opening sequence, and among other people, he described it as just to be super immersive, which is exactly the feedback that I was hoping for. So after the festival, I posted the full video of my projection mapping work onto my Instagram page. I run a lot of visuals on there, so it's really cool to see my general audience interact with my university project. It was something very different that I've done, so the feedback was very diverse. I think getting feedback on social media is really important these days, and yeah, it showed me that overall it was a really positive experience.